Hello and welcome to Spectrum TV News at 2. I am Frank Sizidit, coming to you live from Uyo, the capital city of Akwa Ibom State. Let's take a look at the headlines. President Muhammadu Buhari congratulates Christians on Easter celebration, urges Nigerians to believe strongly in the country for better seasons ahead. Federal government begins final implementation of 41 billion naira broadband connectivity projects. Plus, Ukrainian official Alexandra Promkodini says Russia shelling injures 7 people in southern Kherson region. We will bring you details of these stories and more in a moment. Many thanks for joining us. We begin this afternoon with Nigeria's leader, President Muhammadu Buhari, who has congratulated Christians on Easter celebration and urged Nigerians to continue to be confident in the country for better seasons ahead. Describing Easter as a season commemorating the triumph of light over darkness, the president urged Nigerians to celebrate the season with love, compassion, kindness, resilience, and forgiveness. He also commended Nigerians for their support of the electoral process that produced the next set of leaders at the federal and state levels. According to him, his government's successes in security, economy, infrastructure, new oil frontiers basin, landmark legal reforms as well as food sufficiency, among others, were possible due to the support of Nigerians who enabled him to honor his vows to keep the country united, prosperous, and secure. Still in celebration in commemorating of the crucifixion of Jesus Christ, Christians in Akwa Ibom State and the world at large have celebrated Good Friday, which is the end of the Holy Week today, to mark the death and burial of Jesus Christ. Speaking on Easter celebration, some Christians said they will mark the day through sending goodwill messages to their friends and loved ones, and also sharing of food as well as gifts to neighbors. They added that the day is a sober reflection of the good works of Christ and his sacrifice to humanity, and urged Christians in the world to emulate the ways of Jesus Christ through expression of love to one another as Christ Jesus loved the church. Away from that, President Muhammadu Buhari has fired the Executive Secretary and Chief Executive Officer of the Nigeria Investment Promotion Commission, NIPC, Saratu Umara. The Presidential Aid Foundation has said in a statement that the move is with immediate effect. Additionally noted that, in a directive, the Minister of Industry, Trade and Investment, Otumba Richard, the President also mandated the most senior director in the Commission to immediately take over in the interim. Recall that Umar was first appointed in July 2014 by President Goodluck Jonathan's government, but was sacked in 2015. On July 5, 2022, President Buhari appointed her for a 5-year term. In a separate development, the federal government, through the Ministry of Communications and Digital Economy, has commenced the implementation of the second and third phases of the 41.6 billion naira Nigerian Communications Commission (NCC) broadband connectivity intervention in critical sectors across the country. The Minister of Communications and Digital Economy, Sap Anthony, stated this while presenting a letter of award to the beneficiaries in Abuja. The minister noted that the first phase had been implemented 80% after the Federal Executive Council approved the intervention on 29 March 2023. According to him, the funds for the interventions were internally generated revenue from the NCC, adding that the second and third phases of the broadband connectivity would provide services to 49 higher institutions of learning, 20 airports, and 6 markets. In the meantime, the federal government has expressed dissatisfaction over the poor number of women in innovation and technology, lamenting that only 30% of the technological space are owned by women. Minister of Women Affairs Pauline Talon stated this while addressing women in the National Women's Conference in Abuja. According to her, Nigeria's information and communications technology (ICT) sector has contributed 18.44% of Nigeria's gross domestic product (GDP) in the second quarter of 2022, and the industry is projected to experience more leap in the future. The minister called on all stakeholders from the public and private sectors to focus on developing digital tools and services that will address the needs of all women and girls across sectors, especially in education, health, economic empowerment, and engagement in public life, and to ensure that women and girls have access to digital literacy and skills throughout their life course. From the Green Chambers, the House of Representatives has urged the federal government to implement policies that will enhance the capacity of Nigeria's creative industry as a major revenue earner. At the plenary, the House also urged the Minister of Information and Culture, Lai Mohammed, to, as a matter of priority, create and execute policies to strengthen the creative industry. Following the adoption of a motion moved by member Shina Pella, the House further urged the federal government to increase the budgetary allocation of the Ministry of Information and Culture in the 2024 budget estimate for optimal performance. Pella noted that as the country seeks to diversify its economy from dependence on oil revenues, the creative industry, based on its current economic value, provides a veritable incremental source of employment, revenue, and growth. Meanwhile, the House of Representatives has passed two bills seeking to increase the number of judicial officers in the Court of Appeal and the Federal High Court (FHC), as well as legalize virtual appearance and proceedings in the courts. The House raised the number of justices in the appellate court from 90 to 100, while the number of judges at the FHC was increased from 100 to 150. Reports say the bill has passed third reading at the plenary. We move to education, where the Economic Staff Union of Universities, ASU, has called for the redistribution of the 320.3 billion naira intervention fund approved by the federal government for tertiary institutions in the country. According to reports, President Buhari had approved the sum of over 320 billion naira as the 2023 intervention funds for public tertiary education institutions in the country. Executive Secretary of Fed Fund, Sunny Echano, disclosed this in Abuja during the fund's annual strategic planning workshop with all heads of beneficiary institutions. Echano called for a redistribution of the fund to ensure that it accounts for 90% of what has been approved to go to universities, polytechnics, and not kept as bureaucracy. In another development, the Directorate of Technical Cooperation in Africa, DTCA, has expressed interest in forming a partnership with the National Youth Service Corps (NYSC) to mold Nigerian graduates in the diaspora for nation building. So during a courtesy visit to NYSC National Directorate headquarters in Abuja, Director General of DTCA, Rabiu Dagari, stated that many Nigerian graduates living outside the shores of the country were eager to return to Nigeria to contribute their quota to the development of the nation. He appealed to the scheme management to facilitate the process, adding that the agency, in conjunction with the African Development Bank and the Nigeria's in Diaspora Commission, had identified many other areas of collaboration that the NYSC could tap into and promised that his office would fashion out ways of making them feasible. In his response, the Director General of NYSC, Yushau Ahmed, assured the agency that the scheme will key into the DTCA's proposal after studying it in line with the NYSC Act. Move now to Africa, where Tunisian President Kais Saied has rejected foreign diktats from the International Monetary Fund (IMF), which is in stalled talks with the country over a bailout package. Saied noted that the foreign diktats that will lead to more poverty are unacceptable. Recall that Saied's government reached an agreement in principle in mid-October for $2 billion package from the IMF, but the deal has not been approved by the lenders board. And while the IMF has pushed Tunisia to remove state subsidies on basic goods, particularly fuel. Still in Africa, former Mauritanian President Abdel Aziz has been pleaded not guilty to charges of illicit enrichment, on which he began to be questioned by a Nouakchott court. The court resumed hearing after a 2-week process and readings of charges against him. Reports say Aziz faces charges of abuse of office, influence peddling, illicit enrichment, and money laundering, along with 2 former prime ministers, former ministers, and businessmen. On a foreign scene, the head of the Regional Military Administration, Alexander Prokhandin, says Russian shelling has left 7 people injured in the Kherson region of southern Ukraine. Prokhandin on his Telegram said the strikes hit a series of communities along the Dnipro River near the city of Bexlev. He noted that 6 people were wounded when a drone dropped explosive on the village of Mikhail, and another person was injured in the nearby settlement of Kozaksky. According to him, medical workers have provided emergency treatment and will transfer the injured civilians to a hospital in the largest city of Kherson. Still on the foreign scene, Israeli military has reportedly carried out airstrikes on targets belonging to the Palestinian militant group Hamas in southern Lebanon and the Gaza Strip. The military said the attacks were a response to a barrage of 34 rockets fired from Lebanon into northern Israel, which is blamed on Hamas. Report says militants in the Gaza had fired a dozen more rockets after the strikes began. And still to come in the news, Nigeria drops to 40th in latest FIFA rankings. Just stay with us.
Business exists only to meet the needs of the people, but there's an extra advantage if your product and services are pitched on a platform that gives you the added advantage over your competitors. For your desired return on investment and so much more, advertise on Spectrum Television, on StarTimes DTH Channel 421 and on free-to-air with a frequency of 12733. Spectrum Television, broadening your horizon.
Every day, we bring you up-to-date information on topical issues affecting the common Nigerian.
From issues on politics,
hello Nigeria, I remain committed.
Security,
education, health,
lifestyle, and so much more. Join Janice Kobum and Uyai Anyeken
every weekday from 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. on Rise and Shine Daily. Exclusive on Spectrum Television.
Many thanks for staying with us, and now to the rest of the news stories. In business, World Bank says Naira lost 10.2% of its value in 2022. This came as rising food and fuel prices were responsible for high inflation in the country in 2022. The Global Bank revealed this in its latest Africa's report for April 2023. It explained that the worst performing currency in the sub-Saharan African region was the Ghanaian cedi in 2022, which lost 40% of its value in the year. It also stated that the currency has already lost 20% of its value so far in 2023. Commenting on the Naira, the bank said other currencies with significant losses last year include those of Sudan, 23.6%, Malawi, 20.7%, Gambia, 14.6%, and Nigeria, 10.2%. In business, the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited, NNPC, says Nigeria's domestic gas infrastructure network has the capacity to transport 6.9 billion standard cubic feet of gas to support power generation and gas-based industries. The Group Chief Executive Officer, NNPC Limited, Mele Kyari, made this known in Abuja at the 2023 edition of the Olo Ibiri Lecture Series and Energy Forum. Kyari said Nigeria's huge investment in gas infrastructure is hinged on its growing natural gas reserves, thus supporting the nation's aspiration to create Africa's biggest industrial hub, powered by low-carbon energy. He added that the significant reserve would serve as a low-carbon energy alternative that would support growth in power and industrial sectors, address energy poverty, reduce carbon footprint, and create more employment opportunities. In health, the federal government has called on state governments to prioritize the employment of healthcare workers, particularly in rural areas. He noted that while the country faces the challenge of inadequate health workers due to brain drain, there is an imbalance in workforce distribution between the urban and rural areas. Speaking at the press briefing in Abuja, in commemoration of the World Health Day and the World Health Organization's 75th anniversary, Nigeria's representative of World Health Organization, Dr. Walter Mulumbo, urged government at the state and local levels to invest in the employment and remuneration of health workers in rural areas. Meanwhile, the World Health Organization (WHO) Regional Director for Africa, Dr. Matshidiso Moti, said 672 million people do not have access to the health care they need. Moti said the result from weak health systems is characterized by inadequate health infrastructure, poorly designed policies to limit financial barriers to health services, shortage of qualified health workers, inadequate access to quality medicines, medical products, and innovative technologies. She said this in her message to commemorate the World Health Day 2023 and the WHO's 75th anniversary. We move to the exciting world of sports, where Nigeria have reportedly dropped 5 places in the latest FIFA Men's rankings for the month of February. The Super Eagles, who were ranked 35th in the world in the ranking released in December, dropped 14 points to 48. Reports say the Eagles dropped in the ranking was largely due to their poor performance in the recently Africa Cup of Nations qualifiers against lowly rated Guinea-Bissau in the month under review. Recall that FIFA last announced the ranking for men on December 22, 2022, with the Eagles finishing the year in 35th position after losing one step. In sports, the Confederation of African Football (CAF) has declared open the bidding process for the 2027 Africa Cup of Nations. Reports say interested countries can now submit their bids to the continent's soccer governing body. And while CAF is expected to announce the host nation later this year after inspection, a number of countries have reportedly expressed their interest in hosting the competition, noting that the interested countries must secure the backing of their government to push their bid through. Nigeria and Benin Republic have submitted a joint bid to host the 2025 African Finals. Morocco, Algeria and Zambia have also put forward bids to host the same edition. For entertainment news, Nigerian singer Teniola Apata, popularly called Tenny, has announced the completion of a new album. The Nigerian hitmaker made the announcement via her Twitter account. Reports say though Tenny did not reveal the album title or the anticipated date of release, she disclosed that the world is not ready for her upcoming musical album. That's all we have for you this time. Do ensure to follow us on social media and subscribe to our YouTube channel, all of which you can find on our website, spectrumtv.ng. You've been watching Spectrum TV News at 2. I am Frank Cizedit. Many thanks for being there and do enjoy a good Friday.